Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of YouTube Live. We're going to be trying to make these videos every week at 11:30. So we're trying to keep that consistency. I know last week we were a little bit off on our time, but we were working through some technical difficulties. Anyways, I'm Tim.
I'm Kenzie.
We're coming at you live. I know Chris usually is sitting in this seat, but he's been away for the last 5 days. And when he got back, he got slammed with work. If any of you guys are small business owners, I'm sure you know the feeling. I'm sure you sometimes are scared to go out of town. We encouraged him to do that, but he's busy at work today, so I'm filling in his place. How's it been working while Chris was away?
Well, it's been a whirlwind. He wears a lot of hats, and I don't think you really recognize what all those hats consist of until he's gone. And myself and Aaron, our field supervisor, we had to really work hand in hand over the last few days to make things run smooth. Friday, we had a rain day, so trying to pivot around that and get the guys doing what they need to do and not fall behind on jobs. So
yeah, and I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
You guys were able to answer a lot of the questions I have. I've been here a couple months, and I know just since I've been here, we've gone through quite a few transitions with guys in and out, which is natural in construction. You have installers that are coming and going, but we had a project manager that ended up going. So Chris is not only wearing the owner hat, but he's doing sales. He's also the guy on the ground trying to just keep the guys working and making sure everything is working correctly. What are some of the other things that he does?
He does a lot of the project managing now that we don't have our old project manager. And then he really works hand in hand with me all day, every day. I mean, he barely gets to leave the office before I'm calling him or Marco Poloing him about something new. So he just wears a lot of different hats and does everything. I mean, he's the go-to guy. There's not a line of communication between him and our field guys, or him and myself, or him and you. So he just gets strung in multiple directions every day.
I know he works with me a lot. We are trying to build the media and branding component of Classic Home Concepts. So I've been here a month and a half, almost 2 months now. And so still new, still fresh, still trying to learn. And so I'm leaning on him a lot to help with ideas and just kind of get the vision of where he wants to go. So this is a work in progress. So we're trying to figure out exactly kind of the direction we want to take. And I know he has a lot of vision and a lot of ideas, and we're all kind of going hand in hand trying to get his attention and work with him. But I think you guys did awesome while he was away. But when you come back, there's a lot of things to work on. So today we wanted to talk about your questions. If you guys have any questions, let us know that you're here.
Right.
Let us know that you're watching. And if you have any questions regarding what we do at Classic Home Concepts, what are some questions that you might have regarding construction in general? So I envision this being a multi-part conversation. And really, that's what we want to try to do. So this is our second time on the camera. So if it feels a little bit clunky, less, conversational, we're working on that.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're going to get there. But today we want to spotlight Kenzie and what she does and talk about some of the questions that she often gets fielded. And maybe just answering some of these things will help people understand kind of the concerns and the things that we have to deal with.
Right. So I'm Kenzie. I'm our customer experience officer. I started earlier this year working with Chris, and I too wear a lot of hats. Although my title is a customer experience officer, a lot of my day-to-day roles are also more of like an office manager. I also do like the HR side of our work. So, but really focusing on that customer experience position, I handle all the communication with the clients from the very first time you guys were to reach out to us, even with basic questions, even trying to figure out if the project you're wanting is something we do. From the very beginning, you get me. So a couple ways that you can reach me are by calling into the office, or on our website at classichomeconcepts.com. There's a get a quote button, and you go to that screen and fill out some details about yourself, about your project, just kind of what you're working on. You get a quote, press get a quote, and
yeah,
then
that's a super easy thing. I think a couple weeks ago I did like a Instagram story where I actually scrolled through the website, clicked the get a quote, and I did it like under 90 seconds. So it's a super easy process just to get started. So yeah, I would encourage you guys to do that if you're interested.
So then after you do that, I receive an email that has all your information to it. We really there's a box on there that you can attach some pictures. That really helps give Chris and I a better idea of the space you're wanting your project to be worked with. If there's any demolition or tear downs or cutting walls out or whatever that might consist of, we can kind of already get a game plan on what those things
These
are.
don't have to be like nice professional.
No,
just give us a vision.
Yeah, give us an idea of what we're working with. So after we do that, then I will have a phone call with you. I'll really go over in depth some details of what you guys are wanting. And then I give you guys your own personal job log or job folder, and I send that to Chris. And so then Chris is going to look at it. I'm going to talk over all the details with Chris, and I'll schedule with the client a phone call for Chris to be in on. Chris does that phone call with the client, and he's very good at giving those ballpark numbers. He's done this for so long. He knows ranges of adding windows or adding doors or adding those sunrooms or outdoor kitchens based on the basics of your details.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned was just all the things that you do. There are many facets. And I think that's probably true of most small businesses.
Right.
You kind of function as a family. Like, yes, I have a designated role as media and branding, and you are the what we call a customer experience officer. But from day to day, we kind of share the load or kind of work on things, or even kind of share a vision for like, hey, where do we want to go? What are some things that we can do better? So that's kind of an interesting thing when you're in that kind of small business pocket. You probably, if you are in that, you've known that's we kind of share responsibility.
Right. Yeah. We could go around the table.
Yeah. So when someone calls you and wants a quote, do you give them a quote over the phone, or do you tell them to go to the website and do it? What do you usually do?
Whenever someone calls into the office, which is how we get most of our referrals, I take down their details the same way I do from the website. I take out their email, and then I send them an email and ask them to email me back some pictures. Those pictures are really a good way for Chris to be able to give those ballpark quotes without having to waste the client's time of going out to their house and spending a couple hours out there. If we can't do what they're expecting, which is very rarely, but there are those jobs that it's not something we specialize in. And, we would rather refer them to someone that could handle that better. Also, Chris can give you a ballpark. And if maybe you haven't done enough research to know exactly what your project's going to cost, there's no point in wasting your time of us coming out there if it's not going to be a good match. And Chris and our culture here at Classic Home Concepts is very much about us being a good match with our customers. Not only for the customer to be a good match with us, but it goes both ways, and us build that trust with one another that we're going to get the project done.
Yeah, there's a screening process that takes place with the quote. Not that we're screening you, but in a sense, you're screening us. So you have your budget in mind on how much you can spend. And so for us to be able to get a vision for what you're thinking and also how much money you want to spend, we can kind of cut out and save a lot of time for you to say, like, this is where we are, this is how much it's going to cost. And a lot of that, I guess, is dependent upon how much material costs and where we are.
Right. We all know materials are outrageous right now.
And how far out we are with
and that's
projects.
What my next topic was going to be, is those lead times. I mean, it's a good phone call to have to say, we're 8 or 12 weeks out if someone's wanting us to be at their house tomorrow. So that's just a line of, like you said, that screening process, just to make sure we are a good match and that we're going to work well with one another. So after we do that, after Chris has that phone consultation with them, If we seem like a good fit, then we're going to schedule for Chris to actually go out in the field, put eyes on the project, meet the client, and go from there. He usually, dependent on the project, usually brings back specs, and we have a whole in-house design system. So he designs out what the customer's looking for, so we can give those 3D renderings, really let them visualize what that outcome's going to look like.
Yeah, this might be a Chris question, but from start to finish, like I guess it all is going to be dependent upon like the scope of the size of the project. How long does it generally take from that quote to meeting you and getting the ball rolling to starting the project? I guess maybe from start to completion.
So, and a lot of factors play into that. I mean, I see where he has a turnaround time of a week. I mean, but if it's where, he has to do a lot of designing, and if the client's not for sure on details yet or that kind of nature, it could take a few weeks. So he does work very hard to get those turned around as quickly as possible. Right. Also, if there's any subcontractors that are involved in that project, he has to get in touch with them and get not only their pricing, but also their lead times. Right. So that's usually where a lot of our waiting game kind of takes place, is just getting all the ducks in one row.
There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. So when you tell the client, we're looking at our schedule and we can't, we're 12 weeks out. How do you deal with kind of that tentative start date? We've talked about that a lot. Like there's a tentative nature to construction. There's all sorts of variables that play into when we can start, when we can finish. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
So the tentative date Chris will give whenever, or even myself on that first phone consultation, that's where we are right now in the schedule. So if it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get a contract signed and get those materials ordered, then we might even be a couple of weeks further out than what we initially told you. But all those dates are so tentative. And we try to give a ballpark because everyone wants to know, well, am I going to have this done by Thanksgiving, or is this going to be done by Christmas? And, we work really hard to do that. But in our field, weather is a huge factor. And, not only the typical snow days, rain days, which this spring rained and rained and rained. And so not only those days, but when it gets to be 90 and 100 degrees outside, like our guys have to take a break and cool off and drink some water. Like they're not working necessarily at 100% speed. They might be at 85 or 90 just because it's so hot out. And those things, we try to take that into account whenever we're putting in the calendar how many days it'll take to complete a project and stuff. But also, it's not all in our control. If lumber's supposed to be here for a job on the 13th and it doesn't really get here till the 26th, we can't start your job without the lumber. Right. So it's not necessarily just on us that we're not getting it done.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we value communication and transparency. Is we're working on answering some of these questions so that when it comes to your project, you feel that sense of comfort. Like, I have a little more understanding on kind of the variables that are in play that might affect the outcome or the timeline.
Right. So you touched a good point there. So we have implemented a drip campaign, and that is where after we get a signed contract and we tell the client their original tentative date, I just stay in contact with them every Friday, usually via email, and just send out a quick email just saying, you're still on schedule and we're still thinking the 3rd week of November. Or if we've had a week of rain and we've had to push jobs back, well, now you're the 4th week of November. But I try to always stay on top of that. And, if like right now we're in a lot of hiccups with people taking summer vacations. So, maybe they were planning on the earlier part of July and now they're on vacation. So now we're kind of fitting them in back into August when they get back from vacation. But I would much rather, and all of us here at Classic Home Concepts would much rather take care of that before it becomes an issue, before someone has expectations for us to be there and we're not going to be there. Right. So also in those emails that they get from me every Friday, it has the links to our YouTube, our Facebook, Instagram, any of our social media. Not only so you can see what we're doing, but you can also see that we're working.
Mhm.
We have lots of awesome projects going on right now that we're constantly sharing with you guys. And it might answer some questions about what their project could look like, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And with the tentative nature of things, we are trying our best to keep up with it. But yeah, there's life happens, and it gives you an opportunity as the buyer to kind of maybe understand that. And we're asking for patience from time to
Mhm.
time. But yeah, there are all sorts of things that come into play that can affect that.
Right. And we just never want the customer to be blindsided. We don't want them to have an expectation of one date and then never communicate with them
Mhm.
again until we show up 3 weeks after that date. We want them to always know kind of where they stand in the
Right.
schedule and in our lineup. And
Yeah, being able to communicate that is really important.
right. I do also, once we kind of get that solid installation date, and I don't like to say solid, but once we really kind of nail it down of, oh, it's for sure going to be this week, as we get closer and closer and we get material in and that kind of thing, then I do call and I confirm and make sure that specific week they don't have something going on that we need to schedule around. And, just make sure they're doing okay, that
Mhm.
there's not been any hiccups, because a lot of times it's not only what project we're working on. It's, if we have to send a subcontractor in there, is the subcontractor done and that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we're always staying in that communication.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and I know
oh,
that.
Justin's reached out to us.
We got somebody that's saying hello. Move the microphone closer. Yes, I was moving closer because I was thinking I'm probably getting cut in and out. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us, Justin.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking about tentative, I know we all want our project done when we want it done. And I certainly understand that.
Right.
You put a lot of money down, and you put a lot of money and investment into a project, and you want to see it to completion. And usually you want it done sooner. So you take that into consideration. We're how many weeks out are we now with projects?
Right now we're in the second week of November. So
Yeah, and that might seem like, oh, well, I'm going to go look elsewhere to try to find somebody that can do it quicker. But that might also be a red flag. If someone can do it, in a week or two, depending on the size of the project, that might not be a good thing. You want someone who's consistently working, knows how to do the project. So as much as we say tentative and that's fluid, that's also probably par for the course for most construction companies.
Right. Yeah. We're not the only construction company that's 12 weeks out.
Right.
So after we get that installation beginning, then the communication, I'm still in charge of it, but it kind of switches over to the guys. So the crew leads, they really then kind of take over the communication and work hand in hand with Chris. So at the end of each day, they will be talking with the homeowner, kind of walking through the progress that they got through that day. There's sometimes on jobs we have to wait for an inspection, or we have to wait for permits or that kind of thing. So our crew leads do a really good job of letting the homeowners know where we are with the progress of the project. And then to let them know when they can expect us back. I mean, if we're filling holes with concrete, we have to wait a couple days for concrete to settle and dry. Yeah. And so we won't be back until maybe Monday. So we really try to then turn that over to the guys that are there and know what's going on, to turn that communication on with the customer. If you ever feel like you're not being communicated with, or, you don't understand why we won't be back till Monday, you can always call the office. Chris and I are both always available to answer those questions for you.
So what is signing a contract? So you've gone through the process of getting the quote. He's come out and you're like, okay, we want to move forward with this. What does a contract look like with us?
So then Chris and I are both kind of tackling that project management job together. So we put together that scope of work on a contract, and then Chris will either schedule a time to come back out and go over the contract with you, or if sometimes they're just pretty straightforward. And so we'll use DocuSign and send it to them via email. They can pay their deposit, and then we automatically order materials after that. It's a pretty smooth going process. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't want you guys to sign anything not knowing what you're signing up for. And it talks about those tentative dates in your contract, that it's not like we put on the contract, oh, we guarantee this, and then 6 months or 3 months later, we're like, oh, sorry, that's
Yeah.
not going to work. We want to be very transparent that we can't determine whether, and we can't determine if there are hiccups on a job or
Right.
problems that we didn't know were going to arise.
All right. Anything else that, we should note that you work on or do?
The last thing I just wanted to bring up is some things to gather before you give us a call or before you go to our website. Obviously, those pictures, those are very important for us to do those first phone consultations. But, a lot of my questions to the customer, especially on different things, is like, what style are you going for? So maybe even if you have inspiration pictures from Pinterest or from Google, those are good things to add because obviously one style might differ in availability / price compared to another one. So we definitely get those pictures, get those inspirations. We also encourage you to get quotes from multiple people if that's what you feel comfortable with doing. We just ask that we really are comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
There's lots of variables, and someone could quote way under us or way over us, dependent on what details are given to each person. So that's where, especially in that design process, even if the customer's comfortable paying for that design fee, and we'll design it, and then you take that design, it's yours. You take it to all these different companies and get your quotes that way. That way we really can compare apples to apples when it comes to
generally
pricing.
When someone comes to you with a project, how are they as far as are they very sure on the vision of their project, or are they usually like, I want a sunroom or an outdoor kitchen, but I have no idea what that looks like?
It's
or
pretty
is it kind of all over the place?
It's pretty back and forth.
Yeah.
We get those customers that they've done the research for years. Like, they have their inspiration. They know exactly what they want it to look like. And then it just comes into a matter of Chris taking their inspiration pictures and turning it into a rendering and a scope of work for our guys.
Right.
But then we also have clients. We're actually working with a client right now that has lots of different styles in mind and can't decide on one. And so that's where those 3D renderings really help. We can show you what it's going to look like, a sunroom, for instance, what's going to look like on the back of your house this way, or what it's going to look like the other way. And so having that in-house designing process is very helpful for the customers.
And credit to Chris, bringing someone like me on who's doing the media and branding. The more video that we can create of projects and spotlighting some of the things that we're working on, I think helps potential buyers and clients to see like, oh yeah, I like that. I like the way that looks, or that's not maybe my style. And we give them a little bit more of a portfolio of sort in a visual video media form that they can kind of see and get a feel for maybe the style that we work with and we do well. So yeah, that's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's really all I have to hit on today. So,
well, I appreciate you guys joining us again. Feel free to comment, even if it's after the live. Just let us know what you're thinking. Maybe there's some questions that we could answer better, or maybe there's some questions that you were thinking of as we were talking about Kenzie's work. So feel free to shout out and let us know what you're thinking, any questions that you might have. Even content that we can continue to create moving forward, whether it be here on YouTube answering questions, or videos that we're creating on how-to, comparison videos, pricing videos. We're trying to create content all the time at Classic Home Concepts.
Right. And then next week, we're going to be really hitting some of those questions that people come to us with when they make that lead phone call. Or maybe you haven't made the phone call yet because you have these questions and we haven't answered them. So that's what we're going to work on next week with Chris. And
Chris should be back.
He should be back and have all of his stuff back in order. And so, we'll be prepared. So if there's questions between now and next Wednesday that you guys have, ask them and we'll answer them on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Go through that process with you guys.
Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell. And we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, so we're trying to make our presence known. So be sure to like and follow us on there. So
Right.
thanks for joining us
Yeah.
today.
Thanks, guys.
All right.